My name is Natalie Mercer. I'm 32 years old. And until that Wednesday night, I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I thought betrayal was dramatic. A lipstick stain. A secret message glowing on a phone screen. A confession delivered in tears. I didn't know betrayal could sit beside you on a couch, scrolling casually through Instagram, and say your life was about to be rearranged as if it were nothing more than a seating chart. Ethan and I had been together for 4 years. For the last 2, he had lived with me in my condo. My condo. I bought it before I met him. Back when I was still eating microwave dinners on moving boxes and telling myself the empty rooms meant freedom, not loneliness. Ethan moved in slowly at first. A toothbrush. A drawer. A few shirts in my closet. Then suddenly, his gaming console was in my living room. His protein powder was in my pantry. And everyone referred to the place as your home together. He paid a small, agreed amount toward utilities and groceries. Nothing close to rent. But I didn't mind. I loved him. I thought we were building something. Every year, we hosted a summer send-off barbecue. It was our thing. He handled the grill, the meat order, the drinks, and the condo setup. Ethan handled decorations, side dishes, and the guest list. Around 50 people were coming that Saturday. That Wednesday night, I was on the couch finalizing the liquor store list when Ethan said, "Oh, just so you know, I invited Vanessa." My pen stopped moving. "Vanessa?" I asked. "Your ex-girlfriend, Vanessa." He didn't even look up from his phone. "Yeah. She reached out a few weeks ago. We talked. She apologized for everything. She's different now." I stared at him, waiting for the joke. Vanessa was the woman Ethan had once described as manipulative, jealous, cruel, and impossible to escape. The woman he claimed he had blocked everywhere. The woman whose name used to make his jaw tighten. "You invited her to our party," I said. "At my home. And you're telling me 3 days before." That finally made him look up. Not guilty. Annoyed. "Natalie, don't start." Something cold moved through my chest. "I'm not starting anything," I said. "I'm asking why you invited your ex-girlfriend behind my back. She's not some villain." He snapped. "She's my friend. You told me she made your life miserable. That was years ago. It was last year, when you said you never wanted to hear her name again." He sighed. Long and theatrical. Like I was exhausting him by having a memory. "She ran into me last week. I mentioned the barbecue. It would have been rude not to invite her." "You ran into her last week," I repeated. "And only now you're telling me." His expression hardened. "Because I knew you'd act like this." There it was. The first little twist of the knife. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I should have told you." Just your reaction is the problem. I put the pen down carefully. "I'm not comfortable with her being here," I said. "Not after everything you told me about her. Not after you hid this from me." Ethan laughed once. Without humor. "You're being insecure." The word landed between us like a slap. "Insecure," I said quietly. "Yes. Insecure. Jealous. Controlling. Pick one." He stood. A phone still in his hand. "I already told her she could come. I'm not uninviting her because you're paranoid. This is my home. It's our home when it benefits you." "Right," he shot back. "But suddenly it's yours when you want to pull rank." I felt my pulse in my throat. "Ethan, I'm not asking to control your friendships. I'm saying I don't want your ex-girlfriend here at a party I'm hosting. In a condo I own. After you invited her without discussing it." He looked at me with a kind of casual cruelty I had never seen before. "Then don't be here." For a second, I thought I had misheard him. "What? If you're going to be so uncomfortable, go out for the night. See a movie. Get drinks with someone. It's just a few hours." The room seemed to go silent around us. Even the refrigerator hum felt far away. You want me to leave my own home? I said. So you can entertain your ex-girlfriend here. He rolled his eyes. Don't make it sound creepy. It's a party. Other people will be here. But you'd rather I leave than tell her not to come. He didn't answer fast enough. That was the answer. Then he smiled a little. Like he thought he had won, because I had gone quiet. Good, he said. I'm glad you're finally calming down. I looked at him then. Really looked. The man standing in my living room wasn't some confused boyfriend caught between awkward social obligations. He was perfectly calm, asking me to shrink myself inside my own life. And suddenly, all the little things from the past few months clicked into place. The late nights. The yoga with Clara. The way he turned his phone face down. The sudden interest in dressing better on random weeknights. The impatience when I asked simple questions. I nodded once. Understood. I said. Relief crossed his face. Thank you. See, that wasn't hard. He went to bed 20 minutes later. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I opened my laptop. The guest list was in my email because the invitations had gone out from my account. 50 names. Friends. Co-workers. Neighbors. Ethan's sister Clara. My friend Maya. Everyone who thought they were coming over Saturday for burgers and music and string lights on the balcony. My hands shook. But not from doubt. I wrote one email. Subject summer send-off. Barbecue canceled. I told them I was sorry for the last-minute change. I told them Ethan had invited his ex-girlfriend Vanessa without discussing it with me. I told them that when I said I was uncomfortable, he suggested I leave my own home for the evening so he could host her anyway. I didn't insult him. I didn't embellish. I didn't call him a cheater. I simply told the truth. Then I pressed send. After that, I went into the guest suite, locked the door, and set my alarm for 6. I didn't sleep much. I lay there staring at the ceiling, while the condo settled around me. Every creak sounding like a warning. At čase 2:13 a.m. Ethan's phone started buzzing in the bedroom, then buzzing again, then again. Soon, it sounded like an angry insect trapped in glass. A few minutes later, footsteps thundered down the hall. The guest room handle rattled. Natalie, Ethan barked. Open the door. I sat up slowly. The handle shook harder. Natalie. What did you do? I made coffee in the small kitchenette. My hands were steady now. Outside the door. His voice climbed. My phone is exploding. What did you send? I took one sip. Then the first call came through on speaker. Muffled, but clear enough. No. Maya. That's not what happened. Ethan said. Panic breaking through his voice. She twisted it. She's making me look insane. Pause. No. I didn't ask her to leave like that. Another pause. Maya. Come on. You know me. I almost laughed. Because that was the problem. People were starting to know him. By the time I unlocked the guest suite door an hour later, Ethan looked nothing like the smug man from the night before. His hair was messy. His eyes, bloodshot. And his phone was clenched so tightly in his hand, I thought he might crack the screen. The second the door opened, he exploded. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted. You humiliated me. I leaned against the doorway calmly. Coffee still warm in my hands. You humiliated yourself. No. You twisted everything. His voice cracked. You made me sound like some cheating dirtbag. I said exactly what happened. You sent that to 50 people. You told me to leave my own condo, so your ex-girlfriend could come over. That's not what I meant. The volume of his voice bounced off the walls. I could feel the neighbors probably listening through the hallway already. What exactly did you mean then? I asked quietly. He opened his mouth. Then stopped. That silence again. That tiny, fatal hesitation. You're unbelievable. He muttered. You're actually trying to ruin my life over a party. It's not about the party. Then what is it about respect? I thought, but I didn't say it out loud, because suddenly, I realized something awful. A man who respected me would never need it, explained, before I could answer. The front door unlocked. I turned sharply. A tall blonde woman stormed inside, carrying oversized sunglasses and enough indignation to power a city block. Clara, Ethan's older sister. She didn't even acknowledge me at first. She rushed directly to him. "Oh my God," she said dramatically. "Ethan, are you okay?" He nodded miserably, instantly shrinking into the role of wounded victim. Then Clara turned toward me, and wow, if hatred could physically burn, my condo would have gone up in flames. "You sent that email," she demanded. "Yes." "What is wrong with you?" I crossed my arms. Interesting. Nobody asks Ethan what's wrong with him for inviting his ex behind my back. "Oh, please." Clara scoffed. Vanessa was just coming to a barbecue, and Ethan told me to leave my own home if I was uncomfortable. He didn't mean it literally. He said it literally. Clara threw her hands up. "God, you're so dramatic." The word hit harder than I expected, because every woman knows that word. Too emotional, too sensitive, too dramatic. Translation, inconvenient. Ethan moved beside her now, gaining confidence with backup. "You should apologize," he said. "Seriously?" "Natalie," Maya called me crying. "My friends think I'm some manipulative psycho now. You were comfortable making me feel disposable last night. That's not fair." "No," I said. "Would you leave your home so I could host an ex-boyfriend?" His jaw tightened instantly. "Exactly." Clara stepped forward aggressively. "You're punishing him because you're insecure." I laughed softly. "Insecure people don't cancel parties." "Clara." They begged to stay invited. That shut her up for about 3 seconds. Then came the entitlement. "Well," Ethan said, crossing his arms, "if we're doing this, I'm not paying utilities this month." I blinked. "What?" "You caused emotional distress," he said coldly. "You embarrassed me publicly. I don't think I should contribute while you're acting abusive." I actually stared at him. There are moments when a relationship dies quietly. Then there are moments when it collapses so violently you can hear the debris hitting the floor. This was the second kind. "You think I'm abusive?" I asked. "Yes. Because I refused to leave my own condo. You weaponized our friends against me." "No," I said softly. "I exposed you." Clara jumped in immediately. "You can't just kick him out because you're angry." I hadn't even said the words yet. "Interesting." Ethan looked at her sharply, then back at me. "Yeah. This is my home too." There it was. Not our home. His home. The condo he barely contributed to. The condo bought years before I met him. The condo I renovated myself while working 60-hour weeks. He said it with absolute confidence, like living somewhere long enough made him entitled to ownership. I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. Both of them paused. "You're absolutely right. This has become a legal situation." For the first time that morning, uncertainty flickered across Ethan's face. I walked calmly to my office desk, while they whispered behind me. Then I opened my laptop. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked. I didn't answer. I downloaded a standard 30-day notice to vacate form approved by the state. The room became very quiet. Clara laughed nervously. "Natalie, don't be ridiculous." I filled in the address, Ethan's name, the move-out deadline. Then I printed 2 copies. The sound of the printer humming felt strangely satisfying. When I walked back into the living room and handed Ethan the papers, his face lost color instantly. "What is this?" he whispered. "That," I said, "is your formal 30-day notice to vacate." Clara snatched the paper from his hand. "You're evicting him," she snapped. "I'm terminating a tenant at will arrangement." "You can't do that. My lawyer says otherwise." That part was technically premature. I hadn't hired one yet, but I was going to immediately. Ethan looked stunned. You're seriously throwing away 4 years over this. No. I said. You threw away 4 years the moment you decided your ex-girlfriend's comfort mattered more than mine. That's not what happened. Then what happened? Again. Silence. I stepped closer. You invited Vanessa behind my back. You dismissed my feelings. Then, you told me to leave my own home to accommodate her? His eyes flashed with anger now. Because deep down he knew he couldn't defend it. So instead he attacked, "You're cold." Heh, he said. No. I said quietly. I'm done. Clara suddenly slammed the papers onto the counter. We'll get a lawyer. Okay. This is retaliation. Okay. You'll lose. Then you should feel very relaxed right now. Her mouth opened and closed. People like Clara survive on emotional chaos. Calmness infuriates them because they can't control it. Ethan looked at me one last time. Waiting for me to soften. Waiting for tears. Waiting for the woman who always tried to keep the peace. But something inside me had gone still. Not numb, just finished. Finally. Clara grabbed his arm. Come on. She muttered. They stormed toward the door. Then Ethan stopped halfway and turned back. You're going to regret this. I met his stare evenly. No. I said. I think you are. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the wall art. The condo fell silent. I stood there alone in the middle of the living room, staring at the unopened barbecue decorations stacked near the kitchen island. Little paper lanterns. Disposable plates. The giant cooler Ethan had insisted we buy together. My chest hurt. Because despite everything, part of me still wanted him to come back through that and say this had all been a mistake. That he loved me. That Vanessa didn't matter. That he chose me. But another part of me, the smarter part, already knew the truth. Men who choose you don't ask you to leave your own life for someone else. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello. A woman laughed softly on the other end. Warm. Smooth. Familiar somehow. Hi. Natalie. She said. This is Vanessa. Every muscle in my body tightened. I figured it was time we talked. For 3 full seconds. I said nothing. I just stood there in my kitchen gripping the phone while my heart pounded hard enough to make my fingertips numb. Then I asked the only question that mattered. How did you get my number? Vanessa laughed softly again. Ethan gave it to me. Of course he did. That answer hurt more than I expected. Not because of privacy. Not because of boundaries. Because it meant they had talked about me together. Recently. Enough for my phone number to come up naturally. What do you want? I asked. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I almost admired the audacity. A misunderstanding. I repeated. Yes. Ethan is really upset right now. He told me you overreacted and embarrassed him publicly. There it was. The narrative rewrite. The woman is emotional. The man is wounded. Reality becomes flexible. If enough people repeat the same version. I leaned against the counter. Did he tell you he asked me to leave my own condo? Silence. Tiny. But there. He said that wasn't what he meant. What did he mean? Another pause. Interesting. I think Ethan was just trying to avoid conflict. She finally said. I laughed once. Cold and tired. He created the conflict. Natalie. She said carefully. I'm not trying to come between you two. That sentence. That exact sentence. Women always say it right before standing directly between you and your relationship. You already did. I replied. Then I hung up. Immediately. My phone buzzed again. Text from Ethan. You didn't have to be rude to her. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Not an apology. Not regret. Concern for Vanessa. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped clean in half. I blocked both numbers. The next 2 weeks became a war of attrition. Ethan moved back into the condo after spending one dramatic night at Clara's apartment. Apparently, her studio became too stressful after 6 hours together. He acted like the 30-day notice was a joke. At first, the attacks were subtle, petty, calculated. He used every ounce of hot water before I woke up for work. He accidentally ate the lunches I meal prepped for the week. He stayed up until 2 in the morning, blasting movies in the living room. One Tuesday night, I walked out to find him and Vanessa on FaceTime, together on the couch. In my living room, he didn't even pause the conversation when I entered. Vanessa smiled sweetly through the screen. Hey Natalie. I looked directly at Ethan. You're unbelievably disrespectful. He shrugged. You said we're over. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I went back into my bedroom and locked the door, before I said something irreversible. But the emotional warfare escalated quickly. 5 days later, I got served papers at work. Not real court papers. A ridiculous cease and desist letter from a bargain bin lawyer, whose office address turned out to be above a vape shop. The letter accused me of emotional abuse, illegal eviction, harassment, and defamation. Defamation, because I had repeated Ethan's own words back to other people. The funniest part, it claimed Ethan was entitled to partial ownership of my condo due to common law marital contribution. Which was hilarious because our state didn't even recognize common law marriage. I took the letter directly to an actual lawyer. A very expensive one. A terrifyingly competent woman named Rebecca Sloan. She read the entire thing once, then burst out laughing. I'm sorry, she said, wiping under one eye. I know this isn't funny to you, but this is legally embarrassing. That almost made me cry from relief. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been until someone smarter than both of us confirmed I wasn't losing my mind. Rebecca became my anchor, immediately. She advised me to document everything, every conversation, every expense, every incident. So the next day, I bought visible security cameras for the kitchen and living room. When Ethan came home and saw them, he exploded. You're spying on me. I'm protecting myself. This is insane. No, I said calmly. What's insane is threatening me legally while living in my condo. He pointed at the camera furiously. You can't record me. I can in common areas of my own home. His face darkened. You're trying to make me uncomfortable. I almost smiled. Interesting choice of words. If you're uncomfortable, I said softly, you can leave. The realization hit him instantly. I had thrown his own sentence back at him. For the first time since this began, Ethan actually looked uncertain. Good. The cameras changed things immediately. The midnight TV sessions stopped. The screaming stopped. The manipulative crying stopped too. Funny how people behave better when there's evidence. Then came the property war. I walked into my office one evening and froze. A bright pink sticky note was attached to my framed art print. Mine. Anniversary gift. 2021. Don't touch. I stared at it in disbelief. The artwork was a signed limited edition print I'd bought years before meeting Ethan. One of my favorite possessions in the entire condo. He was trying to claim it. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so transparent. Rebecca's voice echoed in my head. Document everything. So I climbed into storage boxes in the hallway closet and spent 2 hours digging through old paperwork until I found it. The original gallery receipt, from 2017. I made a photocopy, then I taped it directly beside his sticky note. The next morning, the sticky note was gone. But the biggest discovery happened by accident. I was removing Ethan from our shared TollPass account before the next billing cycle. That's all I intended to do. Then, I noticed the history tab, and something about the pattern made my stomach tighten. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, late night bridge tolls. Same route, same exit, same return time around 1:30 a.m. For 8 months. 8 months. I opened Google Maps slowly. The exit led to a residential neighborhood across the bridge. My fingers felt cold now. Then I searched Vanessa's full name online. Her apartment complex appeared immediately, right beside the toll exit. I just stared at the screen. For a long time. Because suddenly, everything rearranged itself into a shape I could finally understand. This wasn't some spontaneous reconnection. This wasn't running into each other. This had been happening for nearly a year. The yoga classes with Clara, the late nights, the secrecy, the defensiveness, the emotional distance. The party invitation suddenly made horrifying sense too. Ethan wasn't trying to casually include his ex. He was trying to merge his two worlds. Normalize her presence. Test reactions. See if he could gradually transition from one life into another without ever being labeled the villain. And when I resisted, he expected me to quietly remove myself. Like furniture. I heard the front door unlock around 11:00 that night. Ethan walked in carrying takeout. He froze when he saw me sitting at the dining table waiting. The printed toll record sat neatly in front of me. His expression changed instantly. "What's this?" he asked carefully. I folded my hands. "How was yoga?" His shoulders tightened. "What? Yoga with Clara?" "I was with Clara." "Interesting." I slid the papers across the table. He looked down, and all the color drained from his face. There it was. The truth. Not spoken. Not denied. Just exposed. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Ethan sank slowly into the chair across from me. "I can explain," he whispered. I almost pitied him. Almost. 8 months. I said quietly. "You looked me in the eyes for 8 months. It wasn't serious." That sentence. That pathetic, universal sentence men always use when they're caught. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I was wrong." Just, it didn't mean enough to count. I felt something inside me go completely cold. "You invited her here?" I said. "Into my home." He rubbed his face shakily. I didn't know how to end things. I stared at him. End things. As if our relationship had already been dead and he just forgot to mention it. "So, your solution?" I said slowly. "Was to force me out first." He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Because it was true. I stood up. "You have 18 days left on the notice." "Natalie." "No." My voice stopped him instantly. "You don't get to explain now. You spent 8 months lying to me while I paid for the life you were enjoying." His eyes filled suddenly. Real tears this time. But somehow they made me angrier. Because now, he was devastated. "Now, I loved you," he whispered. I looked at him for a very long time. Then I answered honestly, "I think maybe you loved what I gave you." And for the first time since this nightmare started, Ethan had absolutely nothing to say. The final 18 days felt less like a breakup and more like surviving a haunted house. Ethan barely spoke to me after the toll records confrontation. The arrogance was gone. So was the smugness. Now he moved through the condo like a ghost, wrapped in resentment. Opening cabinets too loudly. Sighing dramatically whenever I entered a room. Pretending I was the villain for refusing to forgive him fast enough. But every now and then, I'd catch him staring at me. Not lovingly, calculatingly, like he still believed there was a version of this story where he came out on top. There wasn't. Rebecca handled everything after that. She sent a brutal response to Ethan's lawyer, including copies of the toll records, proof of ownership for the condo, the 2017 art receipt, and screenshots of Ethan admitting through text that he invited Vanessa despite knowing I was uncomfortable. Apparently, the emotional distress claim vanished immediately after that. Funny how truth does that. But Ethan still refused to leave voluntarily. 3 days before the move-out deadline, Clara showed up again. This time she didn't storm in dramatically. She knocked, probably because she realized the cameras were still recording. I opened the door halfway. "What?" Clara crossed her arms. "You're really going through with this?" "Yes." He made a mistake. He carried on an affair for 8 months. He said it wasn't physical at first. I stared at her. The desperation in that sentence almost embarrassed me for her. Clara kept going. "You're throwing away 4 years over something people work through all the time." I laughed softly. "No, Clara. I'm ending a relationship because your brother lied to me for almost a year and tried to push me out of my own home for another woman." Her face tightened. "You're enjoying this." That surprised me, because if anything, I looked exhausted. I'd lost weight. I barely slept. My nerves felt permanently frayed. "You think this is fun for me?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Because people like Clara only understand pain when it belongs to them. Then, She delivered the final manipulation attempt. He still loves you. I looked past her toward the parking lot below. You know what the saddest part is, I said. If he had come to me honestly before all this, if he had told me he was unhappy, maybe this could have ended with dignity. Clara's expression shifted slightly, but instead, I continued. He lied until he got caught. And then he tried to make me feel crazy for noticing. She looked away first. That told me everything. Move-out day arrived gray and humid. I took the afternoon off work because Rebecca warned me not to handle it emotionally. Treat it like a business transaction. She said, so I did. At exactly 1:07 p.m. I unlocked the condo door and stepped inside. Ethan was still there, sitting on the couch, watching television, boxes stacked around him, like stage props. My stomach sank. He looked over calmly. Oh, he said. You're home. The casualness of it almost impressed me. Your deadline was noon. He shrugged. My lawyer says your notice might not hold up in court. You don't have a lawyer anymore. That landed. His old lawyer had quietly withdrawn 2 days earlier, after Rebecca threatened sanctions for frivolous claims. Ethan smiled faintly. You really want to drag police into this? I looked at him for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed the non-emergency line. His expression changed immediately. Natalie. I kept speaking calmly to dispatch. Yes. Hello. I need a civil standby for removal of a trespasser. Former tenant at will, refusing to vacate after legal notice expiration. Ethan stood up fast. You're seriously calling the cops? Yes. This is insane. No. I said evenly. What's insane is thinking I'd let this continue. The police arrived 25 minutes later. 1 male officer, 1 female officer. The second they entered, Ethan transformed. It happened so fast it was almost fascinating. His shoulders slumped. His eyes watered instantly. His voice softened into heartbreak. Officers, he said shakily. Please, she's throwing me out. I have nowhere else to go. The female officer looked at me sharply. And there it was. That familiar social script. Crying man. Calm woman. Somebody must be cruel. But Rebecca had prepared me for this. I walked to the dining table calmly and picked up the folder waiting there. Officers, I said. This condo is solely owned by me. Here is the deed. My ID matching the address. The signed 30-day notice. And proof of service. The male officer took the folder. The female officer's expression shifted slowly as she read. Ethan tried one more time. She's retaliating because we broke up. No, I said calmly. I'm enforcing legal occupancy rules after discovering he was conducting an affair. That silenced the room instantly. The officers exchanged a glance. Then the male officer handed the papers back carefully. Sit, he said to Ethan. The notice appears legally valid. Your tenancy ended today. You'll need to gather your remaining belongings and leave the premises. Ethan's face hardened immediately. The tears vanished, like they'd never existed. I contributed to this home. Financially, I asked. He glared at me. Exactly. Then came the final attempt. The artwork in the office is mine. He snapped suddenly. She's stealing my property. I almost smiled. I handed over the 2017 receipt. The female officer read the date twice, then looked at Ethan with open irritation. Sit, she said. This receipt predates your relationship. His jaw clenched so tightly I thought he might crack a tooth. Outside. A rental van pulled into the parking lot. Clara climbed out. The next hour was ugly. Not dramatic. Just ugly. Heavy boxes. Muttered insults. Doors slamming. At one point Clara hissed bitch under her breath while carrying kitchen appliances to the van. I ignored her, because for the first time in weeks, I could finally see the end. When Ethan carried out the last box, he stopped in the doorway. He looked tired now. Older somehow, not the charming man I fell in love with. Just someone, small and angry, standing in the ruins of his own decisions. You really feel good about this? He asked quietly. I thought about that carefully, then answered honestly, no. That surprised him. This was humiliating. I continued. Painful. Expensive. You wasted 4 years of my life. His eyes dropped, but I feel peaceful, I said. And I think eventually that's better than happy. For a second, I thought he might apologize. A real apology. Not self-pity. Not excuses. But then his pride returned at the last second. You'll end up alone. Nathalie. I looked around my condo. My quiet condo. My safe condo. My honest condo. And suddenly, being alone didn't sound frightening at all. I'd rather be alone, I said softly. Then betrayed. Then I shut the door, locked the deadbolt, locked the chain, and leaned against it while my entire body shook. Not from regret. From adrenaline. From grief. From relief. 1 week later, Maya called me with updates. Apparently, Ethan had moved in with Vanessa, into her tiny 1-bedroom apartment, which she shared with 2 roommates. Even worse, Vanessa had apparently believed Ethan was financially better off than he actually was, because during their affair, he conveniently left out the part where the condo, the lifestyle, and most of the stability belonged to me. According to Maya, the relationship started deteriorating almost immediately. Once reality replaced fantasy, funny how affairs thrive in secrecy, but suffocate in fluorescent kitchen lighting and overdue utility bills. Clara stopped speaking to Ethan too after learning the affair timeline. Apparently, she genuinely believed Vanessa was just a friend, which almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. As for me, I changed the locks again, had the condo professionally deep cleaned, rearranged the furniture, threw away the barbecue decorations we never used. Then, 2 weeks later, I reopened the old email chain from the canceled party. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. Then I smiled. Subject: barbecue for real this time. Hey everyone, thank you for the support these past few weeks. Things have finally settled. The air feels lighter. And the trash has officially taken itself out. So the summer barbecue is back on. 2 Saturdays from now. My home. My rules. Hope you can make it. P.S. Vanessa and Ethan are not invited. The RSVPs started pouring in almost immediately. And for the first time in a very long time, my home finally felt like mine again.